All right, and here now to discuss why this is so important, I'm thrilled to be joined by the Executive Council of Australian Jewry's co-chief, Alex Ryvchin. Alex, why do we need to hold this summit right now?
I think you encapsulated it immaculately in that introduction, Shari. We're in a position of national crisis. We're in a situation where school kids returned to school a week ago, and in Jewish households, the typical conversation was, do our schools need more armed guards and security to keep our children safe? We're in a situation where the Jewish community wakes up each day and we're more stunned when there isn't another attack on the Jewish community than when there is one. We're in a situation where Jewish artists are being pushed out of their professions, being unable to do what they love. The situation on university campuses is intolerable. Jews are subjected to harassment, intimidation, and abuse on the streets. We're in a horrific place right now, and we need to bring together those who have it in their power to understand and comprehend this problem and to actually deal with it. And that's why this forum, which I commend you, Shari, for leading, and Sky News for platforming and hosting this, has the capacity to affect real change and lead to real outcomes to improve the lives of the Jewish community and revive our country and bring it back to what it once was, which is a proud, successful, democratic, multicultural society.
So, Alex, looking at how the day will work or the summit will work, we will hear from prominent speakers, we'll have panels and sessions, and then at the end of the day, you'll present a list of outcomes that will help address this crisis.
I think it's critical that this isn't a mere talk fest, and anything that you're involved in, I'm involved in, it's geared towards outcomes. And the outcomes that we're seeking here are to materially improve the lives of the Australian Jewish community and all Australians, and to rescue our society from the abyss that it's found itself in. And the way we can do that is by listening to the experts on education, on policing, on law and order, on justice, on campuses, and then reach specific conclusions about what needs to be done to alleviate this crisis. We're heading into a federal election, and these are things which both the parties can take on and pledge going into that election.
Yeah, it is so important that we have this conversation, and as you say, that we do have tangible outcomes, because when you look back at the past 16 months, and we can see how this has escalated. It started with the protests, and then it has now progressed to serious criminal incidents. Alex, I also earlier in the show read out a social media post that you wrote about the rebuilding of Gaza, but how the priority has to be stopping terrorism and actually dealing with that. We saw on the weekend 3 male hostages being released, emaciated, looked like they'd come out of a concentration camp. Why isn't this conversation happening in the international community about how to change this very dangerous terrorist ideology in Gaza?
On the one hand, people don't want to have that conversation because it's too difficult to grasp and comprehend how to actually rehabilitate an entire society, a society that has for 16 years been under the thrall of a jihadist, anti-Semitic, fascistic terrorist organization that has murder and abduction and rape as its central creed. It's difficult to actually determine how you can rehabilitate and rebuild that society, far more than buildings and roads and so forth. So partly it's seen as too difficult, but on the other hand, at the same time, people want to see Hamas as heroic. People lionize this organization as a legitimate resistance. They are so fixed to their view of Israel as the ultimate evil that they're willing to pardon and look the other way at Hamas's crimes. They're willing to look at these hostages being released, having suffered unimaginable torment, psychological and physical torture, and actually praise Hamas for treating them humanely. But as you rightly point out, the last prisoners look like they returned from concentration camps. They return as the last survivors of their families in certain cases, with their wives and children having been murdered before them. One of the hostages, his brother, was killed in captivity as well. We are dealing with a unique evil, and far more complex, far more necessary and essential to peace in the region than working out how to rebuild houses is how to rebuild a society that firstly democratically elected Hamas, chose to be led by this organization, where you had 4,000 civilians willingly taking part in the October 7 atrocities. You had civilians lining the streets to mutilate the corpses of Israelis taken hostage and taunt, including Holocaust survivors and children abducted by Hamas on that day. You had civilians holding hostages in their very homes. These are the issues that need to be addressed. The rot in that society that has led to the situation that we're in now.
and yet we hear nothing from the likes of the United Nations on this. Alex Ryvchin, such important points there. And again, thank you so much for your work on this very important issue of anti-Semitism.
Thank you,